Make sure you subscribe to both our YouTube channel and our RSS feed for all future conversations here at You Think.
All right, let's jump straight into it. I am honored to be joined by three-time Olympic gold medalist, World Cup winner, one of the most capped players in international history, period, in U.S. women's national team international history, an incredible player, person, coach, parent. Heyo, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for that introduction. Super happy to be here. Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm doing great. You caught me in a good moment. I know that our children are around pretty much identical ages, 4 and 3. How old are your
Yeah. Four and a
four
half
and
and three. Yep, right there.
Exactly. So we're going through, it's amazing age, but it's also tiring. So you caught me on a good day. I got a lot of sleep, worked out. So here we are. I'm feeling great.
I'm glad you got to sleep between the two of us last night. I did not get much sleep.
Sorry.
My son Avi was up a lot through the night, but it's part of being a parent. You know how it goes. Let's talk about. There's many facets of Heyo. Let's start with Coach Heyo. Let's One of the things that you are renowned for that I've personally seen is your mental acuity, your mental resilience and strength. What do you think is one underrated mental skill that youth players need to develop?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably a cliche answer, but I think having a long-sighted view and like a goal and not taking your eyes off that goal. I don't know why this just came into my head, but remember those like presidential medal tests that you would do in gym class, right? And I of course wanted the top star, whatever I could get. But I didn't have any flexibility. Like my flexibility was so poor. So I remember the sit and reach was always like keeping me off from getting the presidential medal. And Aaron, I'm so competitive. It was infuriating that like these other girls in my class who are not athletic were like going well past their toes, right? And for some reason, I do think it was a little bit innate. I do think it was a little bit innate because I do think a very young version of myself took it upon myself to have this like stretching system before I went to bed, and I would put these pieces of tape on my floor, and I did it. I don't know how long I did it for, probably like a couple months, and just kept moving the tape, moving the tape until I would get this presidential medal. So I definitely think that like determination and like hunger, to be able to hold that focus over time, I think is a mental strength. I do think it can be taught. I will crush some people's hopes here by saying like I do think that there's an element that it is probably in some people a little bit more, right? That's not to saying that it can't be taught and it can't be coached and it can't be groomed and it can't be expanded. But there's, I see it even in young people right now, like my little guy, when he's going through his workbooks, he's very determined to like get to the end. Um and so yeah, I think that determination is something. I think when I think about myself, determination is a word that kind of comes top of the charts, in a mental skill that carried me for large stretches of my professional career.
Yeah. Well, now, when you talk about determination, I really like what you said about some of it being innate, some of it being able to be developed. For you, clearly you had that personal drive. You wanted to do it every night. Did your parents help you, or what did they do to kind of help encourage that natural ability? And for you, when you see someone who maybe doesn't have quite the determination you have, how do you coax that out of them?
Yeah. Well, that is the $1 million question of motivation, Aaron. And I'm certainly not going to say I have all the answers. I think more than saying anything specifically to me, I think that my parents. I come from a competitive family, as in like I have three older brothers, and they, were my teachers. They were my like first coaches essentially. And I do think I had a natural athletic ability, so they thought it was like almost fun that I could like hang with them. And I think that that provided this like so much self-esteem and like this formation of myself and my identity and things like that, that like I was like this girl that could hang with the boys. I wouldn't say that my parents overcoached me, but my dad did do a few things to kind of nudge me along. I think I was a shy little girl, believe it or not, Aaron. I was a shy little girl. So sometimes I needed a little bit of prodding, right? And one time I was at my brother's little soccer practice. He's 3 years older than me. So I had no business as a female and with boys that were 3 years older to like be running around with them. But at the end of the tryout, they were running sprints to, test speed. And my dad, who was a track runner himself, I think was just interested in seeing how I would do against these boys. So he encouraged me to like jump out there, and like he didn't have to do that. That was a little bit I don't want to say aggressive, but like it was a little bit like just fun and a little over the top for him to like have that self-belief in his daughter. And so I would say that more than anything, they put me in environments. And in that exact instance, I did not fare well against the boys, but like I think that I proved that I could hang. It's not like I was beating them, but I could hang,
Yeah.
right? To just sort of step out of that comfort zone and do it. And then another time, my dad again, he was definitely like out of my two parents. He was the one that was a little bit more brought me to sports stuff, but they both did. But with my dad's sport background, he was a track runner at Villanova University in like the 70s and was quite good in his day. But I was, again, shy at joining my very first sort of select. You'll probably remember this, Aaron. Before New Jersey ODP, there was even more of like a regional team. It was, for me in the Northeast, it was called Mid New Jersey Select. This was like ODP Junior, essentially. And I was trying out for ODP Junior, let's just call it. And I didn't know any of the girls there. And I was shy. And they seemed to all know each other and sort of have friends and cliques or whatever. And I was like in the bathroom basically hiding and crying and was like, I don't really want to go. I was just so uncomfortable. And my dad did not take no for an answer. Like, sometimes parents are like, well, you should listen to the kids, listen to what they want to do. My dad, in that instance, did not listen to me. He pretty much forced me out on the pitch because for him, he knew that I had a talent, I had something special, and he had more years on this planet to make a calculated decision to like, in that case, it is appropriate to force me to do something that I don't want to do. He knew that I just had to kind of get over the social component. And then I did. And honestly, like from that team went to like other selections to youth national team, senior national team. And I don't want to get dramatic and say that it came down to that one day, but if I had cried in the bathroom and just got in the car and left, which, would have been all right, like I guess in the moment, it could have really deprived me from like so much opportunity ahead. So I guess what I'm saying is, as much as we need to like listen to our children and truly take what they're saying to heart in terms of what they want to do, what they don't want to do, we also have to remember as parents that sometimes we do know better.
Yeah.
And and it's not just for us, it's for them. If we know better, for them. And that's really hard to weed through and to be like true with yourself about, I think. But I'm always so grateful to my dad for that day.
Yeah, well, thank you to Mr. O'Reilly for UNC and for the U.S. Women's National Team. Really appreciate that one. You did us all a solid there. Let's talk about that push a little bit. Now, how do you balance pushing players, kids to be their best while still keeping it fun and positive?
I like keeping score for things, right? Like not everybody finds that fun. It's a little bit of a niche group of people that find it very fun to push yourself, to keep track of scores all the time, to be on an edge. And And that's elite football, right? Or like elite sports. It doesn't always the goal doesn't always have to be elite sports, and I think that that's really really hard for parents, and easy for me to say because my kids aren't of that age yet. But as long as we are true with ourselves that, like, yes, our investment, our financial investment, our time investment is going into our child's development through sports. Like, there might not be any professional sports in their future. There might not even be college sports. Who knows even if they're going to make varsity. But there is things that they are getting and attaining through playing. And all of that time and all that money is investing into that human development that that will serve them for the rest of their life. Not only are they staying fit, making friends, things like that, but they are also learning what it means to get knocked down, literally and figuratively, knocked down multiple times a day, and to figure out a way to get back up and try again. And I think that like repetitive habit is worth that investment.
You touched on it already, but how have you found yourself being able to so far kind of walk that line for supportive and overbearing? And you mentioned your dad was really pushed you, but obviously for you it turned out positively. Like, where how do you walk that line, and kind of what is your developing philosophy about that?
Yeah, I think that it's a huge question. I think I think what we can do as parents and even coaches sometimes, because we all know so many coaches drive this some crazy, because sometimes you want it so bad for this player, right? So bad. And you can want it maybe more than they want it, right? And I think that that's where you get into trouble. Of course, we say, like, you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I think that that's the same with youth sports, right? Like, let's just give the environment, give the tools, drive the car. And at the end of the day, they truly have to do it themselves. And I think if they're not aspiring for it themselves, that is it's gonna fade. It's gonna fade fast, right? So might as well save yourself some sanity. And so I think that there is something out there for everybody to be super passionate about, in even probably a sport, right? And so if it's not like really getting them going, I don't know. I think at a certain point you have to make a pivot and say, like, let's find something that is really like getting you going. Because I really truly feel that human beings have like this insatiable like desire to improve in something and to be like autonomous in something, right? And like those two things are like basically human desires. So if it's not in soccer, it's probably in something else. So um, maybe not be too hesitant to make a change, even if it's disappointing to you.
Now, we've all seen and had coaches that stoke that passion, that even if it's in you and you have the drive, that they feed that fire, they push you even further. What's one thing you've seen, one mistake you've seen that kind of unintentionally drives kids away from the game?
Hmm. Oh boy, a lot of things. Uh, I I think negative coaching. I mean, to be honest, like, there's nothing wrong with calling somebody out when you feel like they are cut. They're cutting themselves short, right? Like, and that's our responsibility as coaches, I think, to get these athletes to their greatest potential, to lead them to their potential. And that line of potential, as we know, is like, it's you're never gonna get there. It's like this like elusive goal. Um, and yeah, I think that the best coaches I've had to spin it out of a negative and into a positive, the best coaches that I've had have been masters in driving me for, like, to get to that potential faster, right? And what drives people to get there faster is like support and encouragement sprinkled in with like, hey, I know you got some more in the tank there, or like try to change your focus to this because I see you're falling short in, or you're overstressed. Sometimes like somebody like myself, I was overstimulated. I wanted it so bad, and I was so competitive and so driven and so determined, but that was causing probably a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of nervousness that I think that my best coaches probably tried to take an edge off a little bit, right? So I think that it's definitely about knowing knowing your athletes, but overall it's a positive approach, and it's just continuing to drive home the point of like, you're capable of such great things. We want to get you there. What are your goals? Let's have everybody on the same page about what their goals are. And so, yeah, we can just drive you and make you feel like the sky's the limit.
Love that. Now, we've talked a lot about the coach-player relationship, the parent-player relationship. There's that important triangle of the parent reinforcing what the coach is telling their kid. How do you navigate that, and how did your parents navigate reinforcing your coach's coaching when you were younger?
Yeah, I'm really grateful for my mom and dad, who were both, I would say, an appropriate amount involved in my athletic life. Like, they were the kind of parents that one time I found out that they called my college coach about something. It wasn't playing time. I don't even know what it was about. I think because maybe I was missing a lot of school to go away for national team commit, whatever they were talking about. But I was like infuriated that they would call my coach without me knowing. And that happened like one time and like never happened again. They left it, very much up to me to hold those kinds of conversations. And I expected the same for them, right? And so I think that it was supportive, but it was definitely my parents trusting my coaches. It was a guided approach for my parents. Whether or not it was intentional or not, I don't know. They did a really nice job in just like being the appropriate amount involved in my athletic pursuits. So yeah, it is really important because everybody should be really clear. I think, like I said before, like the parents, the coaches, and the players should all be crystal clear on a few things. They all three need to be crystal clear on what the goals of the athlete are. And these have to be realistic goals. Is it making JV? Is it playing minutes in varsity? Is it getting that Division I scholarship? Like what? So let's have everybody on the same page. And that in itself can be some interesting conversations because as we know, delusion is real. And sometimes, and there's sometimes I'm delusional too. Like I have like a healthy self-belief, but I do think it is something that's like carried me like at certain points, but it can't be so much that it's just like crazy and unattainable and so unrealistic. So I would say like more than anything, let's get the parents, the coaches, and the players on the same page of what the goal is. And then most importantly, what the plan is to get there, right? Because the parents, the coaches, and the kids should be on the same page of those two things. What's the goal and what's the plan? Then the third component, actually freaking doing it, is on the player. Yeah. So those are the three components. One of them is literally just on the player. They have to do it. You actually have to like put your money where your mouth is and actually do it every single day. We can plan all we want. We can support all we want, but like it really is up to the individual to get the work done. But yeah, that triangle of support, like you said, it is super, super critical, but important to stay in the proper proportions, as we all know.
Love that. Now, you have achieved everything there is to achieve in this game of football. I
disagree, but I appreciate you saying that.
All right, for the sake of argument, we're gonna say you've done it all.
I'm the player of the year. Damn Charlie. Damn Abby.
All right, fair enough. We'll give you that one. You having known you for a decade and a half, though, you don't seem to be a person who regrets anything. You give everything you have to everything you have done. But if you could look back and say, I wish I could have focused more on this when I was a young player, what would be that one or two things?
Oh, well, this one's an easy one, and I'm sure that you know where I'm going with this. Well, I think specifically talking about soccer for all the soccer folks out there, I was a very fast and explosive player. And things were very easy for me, like in terms of just like, there didn't have to be much sophistication with beating a player. It was just like a normal push past and like get them on your back shoulder, kind of simple maneuvers, right? And at a certain point, I wouldn't say I had a poor first touch, but at a certain point, like the the skill on the ball, caught up to me, right? And my first touch caught up to me when I was playing at higher levels. So I do wish that like either myself or coaches, I didn't really have that coach that like picked me out when I was 10 and was just like, "Hey, this is way too easy for you. I'm going to move you up to the, 12-year-old boys or whatever." Like I didn't really have that. And this no disservice to my coach that I had when I was younger. He was quite great and supportive and whatever. But I think that things were a little too easy for me from a physical level, that I do wish that either myself or somebody else would have said like, "Yes, could you just do that, and could you go to goal, and would it be easy?" Yes, but just humor me here and try like to combine off a teammate, or just try to go to the right instead of the left, or whatever it is. I would have, I think, relied less on my physical platform and really embraced like a technical appreciation, quite similar, I think, Aaron, to your wife, who had a technical obsession. I think that I had a physical obsession because that's what I was somewhat good at when I was even younger. And I think it snowballs itself, right? You practice what you're already good at because it's nice and it's easy and it's kind of what you're known for. And then you just keep doing it. So for me, a lot of times it was like, Heather can run, Heather can cross, Heather can beat players 1v1. But it wasn't like, Heather's first touch is awesome, Heather's heading ability is great. It was like the same things my entire career. So that was a long-winded way of saying I wish that I had worked on my weaknesses when I was younger, because I think some of those like actual um, technique things, I think you learn when you're like young. I mean, yes, because you learn them when you're 30, sure. But it's a lot easier on your like muscle memory and things like that, and your mechanics when you're like 8 and 9 years old. So yes, I would go back in time and put a ton more focus into technique training, because the physical stuff was there. It was like in the tank. I didn't need to work on that anymore. What I needed to work on was my technique.
Now, you've had a really unique perspective growing up in New Jersey, having spent a lot of time in North Carolina, two really, really big pools of youth soccer. Looking at the youth soccer landscape today, what do you think the biggest thing is that you'd like to change?
Um, yeah, I mean, this is no disrespect to like, mega clubs. Like I grew up at PDA and in New Jersey, and I have all the love and respect for those guys. And it is no, disrespect to anybody's life work that have worked on these things. But I truly do think it's insanity to get young kids on an airplane to like go travel to play 1 or 2 games. I think like especially if you're blessed with like the density of population of the Northeast, and even in North Carolina with like North Carolina, DC, Virginia, I don't think anybody's got to be going further than a few hours tops to play a soccer game, right? And then if you have, 2 tournaments or something like that, that's special, like a couple times a year, that's fine. But I think what I'm saying is, I don't know if we need to be traveling by airplane for friendly matches over the weekend. Like that seems very expensive and also just like over the top. I would just focus on on training more and like being in your like your local community and training. And that's not to say that games aren't important, because you can have games against local players more. So yeah, I would say that to me sounds a bit wild. I'm glad that wasn't necessarily around as much in the soccer. I can't speak of all the other sports, but in soccer there's a lot of travel, long distances for like one or two games, which I think is pretty bizarre. Um, and let's see, what else do I not like? Um, yeah, like listen, I don't want to be like an old head here and be like, it's not all about the likes on Instagram and stuff like that, but like there is something to that, right? Like I would just say to young people, like, focus on your craft. Focus hard on the craft, and like all that stuff will come. You will get fans, you will get noticed, you will get money, you will get, just focus on your craft, because like that above anything else will last over time, and you won't be just a what is that, light in the pan or whatever that saying is, like flash in the
Flash in
pan.
the fan, yeah.
Because, yeah, and like it's exhausting to keep up the like Instagram posts and this and that, and like that takes time and that takes energy. Like I disagree with anybody that says that it doesn't. Like it takes time away from your training. It really truly does. It takes time away from being the best player that you can be. So I don't like that aspect either. I don't like people spending more time on their brand and less time on their craft. I just truly believe that will come organically if you're just like head down grinding, becoming the best player you can be.
I fully agree with you, but I'm gonna headline this one: Heather O'Reilly shakes fisted cloud.
Come on, you
I
gotta put in
love
the
it.
work before the money
You
comes.
kids these days in your Instagram. I agree with you. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Say hello to the kids for me and tell Dave that I'm going to hit him up to play golf very soon.
Oh, nice one. Thanks, Aaron, and hope that was helpful for anybody listening.